lost all control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'll be your host, Brent Thomas. I hope you're enjoying the ride so far. Welcome. It's Wednesday night, everybody. It's 2 hours of paranormal fun right here on the Paranormal Portal, and we are excited to be here with you. We're excited to have you here with us, and together we can have loads of fun. I trust that that's the case. But by we, I don't mean just me. I mean me and my good friend and co-host, the man on the other side of this desk, the laughter from the shadows, the bearded wonder of the Northwest.
Oh, you're killing me,
Mr. Don Longbeard.
Oh boy, what a! How am I supposed to live up to any of that?
I don't know. I guess you'll have to just do your best, Don.
I'll just wing it.
Absolutely.
Wing it.
How you doing? Good?
Doing good, yeah. I was actually able to
Okay,
wash
great.
laundry today.
Glad you're here, Don.
I had not much to do. It was nice.
Well, good. It's good to have you here anyway.
Thank you.
Hope you're having a lovely evening back in your chair. You've it's not the same without you. What's going on over there?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. You're peeking. What are you peeking at? Oh, your hand. Don is coming down to my camera.
Just being funny.
The man's missing the camera time, so he's trying to double up and get double exposure. That's how it works.
Double goodness, double.
I don't know about any of that part, but welcome everybody. This is our Wednesday show, so it's 2 hours, as I already said, but we get a lot of announcements coming up. Wow. My God, we're so busy. It's getting so crazy busy with new interviews coming up, new guests coming on the show. Just wrapped up an interview today with a gentleman who's been on the Discovery channels, the History Channel, Destination America, just a whole track record of different paranormal shows that he has taken part in and has been a part of. And we interviewed him today, and it was a great time. And we'll promote that properly as it gets closer to the air date of that podcast. But it was a great interview. Had a nice discussion with the gentleman, and just really easy guy to talk to. He's just really very passionate about what he does, and it really came through in the interview. It was a great discussion, and I really enjoyed talking with him. And he said he'd be happy to come back, which is always nice. I don't think he was just being nice either.
Oh. Well, that's always best.
I think he actually meant it, Don.
Wow, somebody who actually means it.
I know, right? Can't go wrong that way. But yeah, so it's been really cool. We've got, of course, a big event coming up in the beginning of March here.
God, yeah.
This is, we're heading over, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be going on March 6th and 7th. Actually, we arrive on the 6th, but the actual show is on the 7th. And Don, what's the show called?
It is the Meddling Falls Bigfoot Town Hall Meeting.
Yeah, and it's going to be Meddling Falls, Washington State. It is going to be a great event. Of course, Stephen Majors and his Extreme Expeditions Northwest LLC will be there. All of he and his crew, as well as Adam Davies, will be there. And the gentleman that's the doctor is a new name to me, but I'm really excited to hear him talk because he has been compared to Jeff Meldrum. I think he's from Alaska, but his name is Dr. Robert Alley, and he will be speaking there as well. And it should be a great time. We're going to be doing some live broadcasts from there, some more interviews as well, and it's just going to be an awesome event. Yes. We're really excited to be a part of it, and a special thank you to Stephen and Extreme Expeditions Northwest LLC, because I mean, it's just an honor. It's a really big honor to be a part of it, and we're really excited. We just got off the phone with Steven this evening, just a little bit ago, talking some turkey about the event. It's going to be amazing. So if you live in the area or it's accessible to you somehow, definitely check it out.
Yeah,
we'll be there, so that should be worth the trip anyway.
Apparently, we're going to fill the town with this thing.
Yeah, it's going to be, he was saying when it started out, it was going to be kind of a smaller event, but he's been getting contacted left and right and got people coming out of the woodwork to come over there. So we're really expecting a pretty incredible show, and we're just gonna have fun with it and enjoy the experience, because it's a real honor. So if you can be a part of that experience, we'd love to see you there. Again, that'll be in Medellin Falls on March 7th. And so check it out at what was it called? The Cutter Theater?
The Cutter Theater, yeah.
Cutter Theater in Medellin Falls, Washington.
And let me see if I can find a link to that. And
if you could.
I will post a link in the chat.
Yes, and they are also selling shirts.
Yes.
For that event too, to help endorse it. So
yeah, I've got that right here too. Let me drop that in there too. Yeah, it's the Medellin Falls Town Hall thingy. So
yeah, exactly. I need one of those shirts too. That's going to be epic. But anyway, that's coming up. That's our first event coming up right at the beginning of this year.
Gosh,
and
what a busy year we just talked about it being too.
Well, I know, and really it's probably not in the grand scheme of things, but it is for us.
Yeah, it is.
Anything outside of the studio is busy because we've done years of the studio.
Yeah.
And well, with the Coloma trip, of course, that was amazing last year and will be again this year.
I have no experience in that.
You will. This year you will. You're definitely going to be a part of this year's journey. So
yes, that is true.
That'll be an epic run, and we are expecting some of you guys actually to be attending that one, and that is the second weekend in July in Coloma, Montana, actually Missoula, Montana, but Coloma is a ghost town that is right near there, and it was an incredible experience. If you want to check out what that experience was like last year, check out our playlist on investigations on our YouTube channel, and you can watch some of the streams and live feeds that were done, and some recorded feeds that were done as we investigated that, Dan Pruitt and myself.
Yes.
And it was just a great time, just a really great time. So that's going to be coming up in July. And then in September, we are heading to the International Bigfoot Conference in Washington.
That's the 4th, 5th, and 6th of September, I believe it is.
Is it? Okay. 4th, 5th, and 6th. So if you have the opportunity.
That's funny.
What?
It says, Stephen, I just saw this from Stephen Major. It says, also, I need your guys' shirt sizes. I just saw it. I was like,
oh,
well.
Nice.
Well, then.
So there's lots of things coming up, ladies and gentlemen, and we are absolutely thrilled to be a part of all of them. And there'll be more coming up still, but that's what we know so far.
Yes.
We're planning on adding a lot more events this year as they become available, or as we become available to attend them. So stay tuned. If you want to stay up with any of the announcements around the Paranormal Portal, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, and be a part of the discussion. Also, check out our podcasts as well. Those are coming out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as it stands. So today's was a great one. Actually, I was surprised of the whole podcast. The thing that got the most discussion was that damn video, that creepy video.
I swear that's what it is. I swear that's what that thing is.
Oh God, that's horrible.
Scared the hell out of me.
If you're not sure what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, listen to today's podcast and then check out the page over on Paranormal Portal Radio on Facebook and watch the video. The video is not brand new or anything. It's been around for a while, and we covered it a long time ago as well. But we talked about it again on the podcast, and a lot of people saw it for the first time through our page, and the reactions are just like, oh my God, what the hell is that? Now, I'm not going to go into any more details about it, but
You'll just have to check out the podcast.
You'll have to check out the podcast, and then just realize that we probably will be doing more with that video in the very near future. That's all I'm going to say at this point. Even Don doesn't know what I'm talking about. So
No, I don't. What? Did you get a hold of him?
I'm just going to say that we have a lot more coming regarding that video. So, hey, Kev Baker. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for checking us out. He is in the house. And speaking of the house, if you want to call in and be a part of the house, you can do so by calling 720-923-0500. Kev, it's good to see you in here, brother. I tried to stop over today, but I was absolutely swamped. I didn't get a chance to check out your streams, brother, but I hope you had some great shows today. And ladies and gentlemen, check out Kev Baker's channel, The Kev Baker Show, right here on YouTube. He's been doing amazing work, having amazing shows, awesome discussions and topics, and he's just really good at what he does. So you definitely want to check him out. It puts out a top quality show. So that is the Kev Baker Show right here on YouTube. All right, I think that's the laundry list right up front, Don.
Sweet.
Anything else? Did I miss anything?
Well, I don't know because I haven't been told a few things. So if you've missed something, I'm not telling you.
Well, sassy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hang on because we're going in. Boom, I had to hit the right button. Sorry.
Yeah, pushing the right buttons is the thing to do.
Yeah, well, hitting or pushing, whichever option you choose, as long as you connect with the right button.
I'm told I push a lot of good buttons.
Yeah, you can tap dance on buttons.
At least buttons. I don't know if they're good or bad, just buttons.
Don's moonwalking on buttons. Yeah, well, there you go. The beard's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Now you know why we miss him so when he's not here.
Whatever.
But it's good to have you back.
What? Wes is in the house? Wes too?
Are you serious? Wow.
Did somebody say? Somebody said something about Wes. Maybe they were just mentioning him.
Oh, is he in here? Who is in here, Don?
Oh, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Let's do a roll call.
That's a real quick way to find out who's here, Don.
So let's see. We have Adriana. We have Aussie Tiger, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Mr. Brian Gasca, our favorite medium, Ms. Deborah Varner. Elaine is here. Ethan. I am Pam. Isaac's here. Hi, Jess. Kathy's here. Lindsay's here. Miralina's here. Mog is here. Magian Manta. The French style so much Jake. Let's see. Starhead Logging. Mr. Kev Baker, as we mentioned. Tinker, Tighten Up, Tracy, and Mr. Duke Sullivan.
Woo.
Woohoo!
It's a growing boat here on the portal, but we got a lot of stuff right off the bat to get to, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
and
got stuff lined up.
I do. I actually planned for tonight's show.
Sweet.
I planned ahead because I can't. One of the things that I had planned on was because I had a listener reaching out asking a question. I thought, this would probably be a good thing to go over on the show. But the first thing I want to cover is we got these incredible voice messages actually from our listener Connor, and he sent us a couple of these that are, and it's just he thought it'd be quicker than actually trying to write it down. The reason I'm showing it tonight rather than on a weekend show, which I usually wait for, is because it's an audio file, and if I try to play an audio file, it doesn't carry over to the network. I don't know what it is. I'll have to talk to Kev about that because I know he's got that worked out.
For you.
This is a YouTube thing for sure. Where the hell's he?
I don't know, but a shout out to Mr. MCAT. Nice to see you. He wasn't here when I did roll call.
Oh, good to see you, MCAT. Thanks for coming in, brother.
And did I miss Tighten Up? No, I didn't. I remember
maybe?
saying Tighten Up.
Maybe. I don't know. All right. Here's one of them, but there was another one before this. Where the hell's that one? That one's up here, isn't it? No, not here. Here. Okay, so here's the first one. Now, we're just going to sit here quietly and listen to this. It is audio only, ladies and gentlemen, so you can look at Don and I as we look perplexed and interested, of course.
Interested, yes.
As we listen to this. I'm sorry I don't have any graphics to go with it, but
we'll be graphic enough.
Yeah, Don's graphic enough. We'll zoom in on the beard.
No.
But that's a paranormal place all by itself.
Yes, it is. See right here?
But I don't have any visuals to go along with this, but it's excellent stuff, and I'm really, really thrilled he sent this in. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Connor is sharing his experiences. And there's another one after this, so stay tuned. Oh, you serious? And stand by, ladies and gentlemen. Technical difficulties here in the portal. Jesus. What the hell? It played perfectly before. It didn't give me this. Now it wants me to download. Click here to download. Yeah, I don't want to. Just play it.
The suspense is killing me there for about 15 and a half milliseconds.
Yeah.
It's like, where is it? Whoa.
And the plot thickens. What the
That
hell?
is not a valid choice.
Apparently not, but that's kind of the story of my life.
Pam, it's only about 3 hours from us too, by the way. Medellin Falls is just north of Cusick.
And there's another of that's the Paranormal Portal band section. That's the musical entertainment here on the show. I don't know what the hell it's doing. I was able to just click it and play it earlier. So why not now? No, it's not doing it. What the hell is wrong? I don't know. Connor, what the hell?
That one? No, that I know.
How about this one?
Well, that's no, you don't want that
This
one.
I did this one before. Now it's number 2. Well, let me do this. Let me show in the folder, and we'll see if I can launch it this way. Why
Hold
hasn't-
on, he really knows what he's doing.
Well, that's a.
Except when it's time to
It
perform.
doesn't have an extension. I think it must be an MP3 though. Let me try renaming this. Yeah, it said MP3 file. Let me just do this quick, ladies and gentlemen, and see if this works. All right, I'm going to try it again. Let's see if it rolls.
Aha, here we go.
We'll see. It hasn't played yet.
Hi Brent, how's things? It's Connor here. I was talking to you on Messenger the other night.
That's right, he's Irish.
I'll try and talk you through my couple of experiences. I don't think any of them are all that mightily profound or anything, but they're experiences nonetheless.
It's got a great voice.
I kind of forgot about a couple of them, and just as I started delving into the paranormal and stuff myself over the past couple of years, I just recalled them a little clearer. But I'll try and explain them as best I can. I'm not really used to recording myself or talking about these kind of things, so I'll just give it a go and see how it fare out. And you can let me know if it makes sense or if it doesn't. But basically, the first one I was about 13 when we were playing 5-a-side soccer at a local primary school. But it was of a Sunday. We used to go and play on their football courts whenever there's nobody there. But we're playing until it was dusk, I'm sure. Starting to get a little darker, that probably 5 or 6 o'clock, and autumny kind of time, so it was pretty dark. But I should actually point out where it's in a pretty rural area in Ireland. But we were walking back to one of the boys' houses, pretty close to there, probably about 10 minutes walk. But when we were halfway, we had to walk over this little valley. The road kind of dipped into a valley, probably only about 500 metres or less long, probably actually 300 metres. But when we got to the higher side of the valley, we had to turn right at a T-junction. But as we looked down into the valley, the field areas either side of the road, there was like a green ball. I don't know if you, probably an orb you call it now, but it looked, I don't know, looking down, we assumed it was a farmer with a funny filter on his torch or something. But we started walking, and I suppose it was probably about, I don't know, 10 feet, 12 feet tall and around. But as we started walking, it was moving parallel to us in the field, probably about 50 metres down, maybe 100. And as we were walking, it was moving along just at the exact same pace. We were a little freaked out, but 13-year-old tough kids, nobody really said too much, and we were laughing a little bit. But it was walking, it was continuing the same pace, but it was passing through trees and over the fences. So we took in to run, and it just kept at the exact same pace through the swampy ground in the little valley, passing through trees and fences and whatever obstacles, the exact same pace. So we put the hammers down and looked straight ahead and ran, and that was the last we had seen of it. But a friend of mine, one of the boys was there that night. There was about 5 or 6 of us there that night. The other boys that got collected by their parents, and we were walking back to our friend's house. But it was a few years later. A friend of mine, he got a job working nights in a nightclub. But a lassie that was dropping dropping him home, they came back over the same road, just going a roundabout way, dropping off a couple of guys from the nightclub. But when they came down that road, he had forgot about it altogether. but he said a green light came straight out of the ground. He said it was a beam, it wasn't a glow like before. Came straight out of the ground and directly in to the front of the car, into the passenger. The girl stopped the car and the guy jumped out. There was absolutely nothing wrong with them, but the three of them seen it. And it's the first time he had actually brought up the original case to me years later. He said, do you remember that time we had seen that light? Well, this is what's after happening. I don't know, we didn't really put it down too much then. It was just kind of spooky goings on. But that was that. The next one it was probably around the same time. I can't actually remember if it was that long after. Could be no more than a couple of years. But the same friend that had the second incident, he was stopping at my house one of the nights, and I was after setting him up with my girlfriend's best friend. So they had met, they would double dated a couple of times and got on great or whatever, but the girl, she was a very close friend of mine as well as my girlfriend's. But he stopped over at my house after meeting the girl a couple of times, and they both he and me had to stay over at my house, and he was playing video games and lied in till about 11 o'clock the next morning. He woke up and with a funny look on his face and said, Connor, does that girl, I don't want to name her, does she have a brother? And I said, yeah, she's a brother of whatever age, and I'm surprised she's never mentioned him to you because she always talks about him. And he said, alright, because I'm after having a dream last night. We were down in the local hall and she came into the building crying that her brother's just been killed in a car accident last night.
Oh, wow.
It's just, that's weird or whatever, the fact she actually has a brother and you never heard of him. But we got a call then. We were actually all trying to meet up in the town after lunchtime, probably 1 or 2 o'clock, when we eventually got in contact with somebody who let us know that her brother was actually killed that night in a car accident, unfortunately. So yeah, so that's the third, and then the fourth is it's funny, these kind of circle around the same couple of people, but the girl from the original story, myself, my girlfriend, her and her new boyfriend, this is years later, she's actually married to him and all now, but we were camping in the field right next to her house. You could literally see the gable of her house from where we were camping, but we had the cars parked there and the tent set up, and we were drinking away and having the crack, and we were talking about different ghost stories and stuff like this. So I was telling her a few of mine, and just random stories with her from around. So she's telling me that the field we were in is supposedly haunted. So I thought it was BS at that, and thought she was trying to fill us full of mad ones. But she had said that her brother, the young fella who had passed away a few years beforehand, he often went into the field checking cattle or whatever, and he'd be in it for half an hour to an hour walking around and unable to find his way out. Like as I say, you can literally see the house from the field. He said he walked around for hours and absolutely didn't know where he came in, how to get out, walked around in circles.
Wow.
That sounds like fairy glamour to me.
Yeah, like he walked through a fairy ring and transported somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, like he got glamored. He was, I mean, everybody could probably see him just fine, but he couldn't see anything.
Well, yeah, that's like, it reminds me of a story I heard of a little boy, or maybe it was a little girl, I can't remember, a child that disappeared one day and like reappeared like 4 or 5 years later.
Oh, right.
Because she had been, this child had been taken away by the fairies and had escaped eventually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I remember that one too. Yeah. Okay, back to it. I just had to say that definitely sounds like a fae kind of thing, some kind of glamour or something that was put on him that he couldn't find his way out. I remember seeing there was a woman who was investigating a cemetery, and she was pretty well adept investigator. And she wasn't alone. And she had the guide, like the guy that worked at the cemetery with her. And they both got lost in the woods surrounding the cemetery. And literally, it's a thin band of woods that surround the cemetery. And they were in there for hours and couldn't find their way out.
Just like a wind cut, know?
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. And they I mean, it was literally like 100 yards wide at its widest point all the way around the cemetery. And they got lost in those woods, could not find their way out for like 3 hours.
Wow.
And they were frozen and desperate by the time, and suddenly the illusion failed, and they saw it like it was plain as day that they were already so close, but for some reason they could not see it. So
wow,
I think that stuff does happen, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to continue here. I just had to interrupt that.
And that apparently at 3 o'clock in the morning you can hear the noise of a horse and carriage travelling down an old dirt path that was alongside it. Now, at this stage, there wasn't even a dirt path there. It was literally field, hedge, the whole way down.
Wow.
But they said there was an old cemetery just beyond the corner of the field that we were in. We just kind of shrugged it off and thought it was just a wild one that she was telling us. So we forgot, and we were drinking and partying away, and sure enough, into the morning we had a campfire going, and we were pretty drunk. And next thing, we didn't even realise the time. At I had turned down the music because the four of us heard this noise. And I think it was near 3 o'clock in the morning exactly. Because when we checked the time, that's kind of spooked it out even more. But this unbelievably loud noise, unmistakable, of a horse-drawn carriage going down a gravel path.
Wow.
And the four of us heard it. Even as drunk as we were, four of us heard it, and we sobered up pretty quick after that, I'll tell you.
Okay.
But yeah, that was it. That was unmistakable. I suppose the other thing that I touched on the mesh is fairies and Irish folklore. Like, Irish folklore is, I'd say it is just that. It's folklore and it's myths and legends and stuff. But we're actually retold all these stories in school. This is a real important part of Irish history. Not so much now in recent. Like, I'm not old. I'm only 28. But whenever I was in national school, primary school, from 7 right through to maybe 11 or 12, we learned about them. That was, as part of Irish history. Whether they were, factual events or not, was never part of the story. It's just important parts of Irish history. But we learned about fairies and giants, and we had a couple of famous giants. They supposedly built the Giant's Causeway in North Antrim. Obviously, that's not true. I think it's actually proven it's volcanic. It was a volcanic eruption, whatever, hundreds or millions of years ago that caused that. But it was a pretty strong part of our heritage. But fairies, like my grandparents, as I touched on before, like it wasn't a wild story that people told. There was fairy forts, just kind of off the road here and there. There'd have been what would look like mounds and burial grounds, which we always would have, assumed they were. But the older people who told you that, no two ways about it, they are fairy forts. You'd have seen the fairies and the lights and the music at night time out of your peripheral vision when you're walking past, because you weren't allowed to look indirectly.
Right.
That was the one rule I was ever told. I don't know what good or what bad happened after, but they done you absolutely no harm. They were nothing to do with us, but you just didn't annoy them. And if you talk to maybe 2 out of 3 elderly people of them kind of ages, I suppose you're talking 80s and 90s years old now, it was a fact. Like, there was no, they just weren't around anymore. But everybody had seen them. You'd be walking home from a friend's house or family's house or whatever time in the middle of the night, and they were there. You could see the lights, you could see them dancing. But as you got closer, you just kept looking where you're walking, straight in front of you. Don't look in, and that was it. They were full of paranormal stories. But it's funny because that generation in Ireland was very holy, all Catholic, and very, went to mass and everything. But these paranormal events all happened, but they were never conflicting with religion, and they were never a part of religion. They were just a thing that happened as well. That's something that I kind of think about a little bit in more recent years, that it never kind of contradicted anything. It was a part, it was there. Both are facts, and that was just it. That's the way it was taken. But I think I actually experienced one with them after the passing of my granny, which was the death tick, or the death clock. So basically, if somebody's on their deathbed, there's a ticking clock in the house, and it could go on for a day, it could go on for a week, but it will keep ticking until their last breath, and you can pull the house apart and you will never find this clock. Wow. That was a common one they often talked about, and I'm pretty sure there was something like that had happened at the time of the passing of my grandmother. But they had talked about that, and there was different ones like they used to live in a house in the mountains with a tin roof. They were called the mountain folk. And I think that's maybe a little bit more why they were so in touch with that kind of side of things. They said about in the middle of the night there'd be a notorious crash on the roof, as if somebody dropped like cinder blocks on top of the roof.
Oh.
And I think that was a sign that there was going to be a death in the family, or that could have been the death of somebody. But they knew all the signs, and they knew what they meant. There was different knocks that came to the door, and you knew what ones not to answer.
Oh, shit.
3 big bangs on the door, you just don't answer that.
I wonder why.
And I'm sure they're all pretty spooked out, but that was just it. They knew what to do and what not to do.
Dominoes.
No one's home.
No.
Sorry, man. Dave's not here, man. No, man. Dave's not here.
Just trying to think, is there any more
That's
for
pretty
you?
cool. I like these stories a lot.
That's probably all I can think of now. I probably should have wrote down some stuff, but so just go off the cuff and record a little message for you and see what you think yourself, and we can touch base again and see what you want to do. If there's anything else I can think of, I'm sure there's probably a couple little bits here and there. There's nothing else to myself personally. Oh, there was one. I'd actually wanted to get your advice on it. I don't even know if it's going to make sense, but basically, about 2 years ago, a friend that was actually living with my family, he come into hard times himself, and he was operating his business alongside mine at the home house, and he was living here as well, but he come into real hard times, and then the lad got down, and he committed suicide. But we went looking for him the next morning and found him only about 2 miles from the house here in this rural area. But it was a new built house, and he went in, and that's irrelevant, but that's where it was. It was just off a little slip road. I say only a couple of miles from here. But if you continue on down that road, there's a rural pub, a bar that people go to here. But my father had been down drinking in there about a year ago, and I'd never went down that slip road since. I didn't pass that house since. So he asked me to go and collect him that night. So I left the house probably 11 o'clock, half 11. And I said I wouldn't take that slip road. I'd go the long way around, just maybe another 3-4 mile past that road and take a right. And it's a big looping road that brings you to the same location, same pub. So I took off my own anyway. And I can remember driving down the road and continued on the long way because I didn't want to pass that house. So it felt like I was driving for maybe it just felt like a lifetime, and I felt like I was driving for a long time, and I just kind of came back to reality. I was in a daydream, it was in a world of my own, but just kind of realised I'd been driving for an awful long time, and I just had twigged with me that I hadn't seen any landmarks nowhere that I recognised. And then just as I thought that, I seen a white wall alongside me, and that white wall is at the end of the other road. And as soon as I'd seen that, I came to the end of a crossroad, and it was the road that I'd been avoiding, the road that my friend had killed himself on. I don't know if this is a memory slip or sort of time lapse, if it was something a completely explainable phenomenon that I done myself. Just forgot while I was driving, like we do. We just daydream. But I clearly remember driving the long way. I remember driving out that road. I remember passing the houses, not on the long road. And that's all I can remember then after that. And then I can remember coming out the end of the other road, the road I was avoiding. I don't know if that makes sense, or if you just put it down to just a little brain fart of my own. But something, it freaked me out that night. I explained it to my partner when I come in that night, and she got freaked out initially. She didn't say, it's a brain fart or you lost stuff. That's incredibly weird. It felt really weird to me. It sounds like a really small, insignificant story, but I don't know. It stuck with me.
Wow.
I'd just like to get your opinion on that, I suppose. But anyway, look, that's it. I'll leave it at that for now, and you can let me know what you think, and we can definitely talk again.
Wow.
Thanks, Brent. Massive fan of the show as well, by the way. Thanks, mate.
That's,
Hi, Brent.
That's awesome. We have another part as well that he recorded after that, but here's the thing. I don't think there is any such thing as a small paranormal event.
No.
I really don't. I don't think
they're all profound in their own way.
Right. I mean, he was brought to some place he was trying actively to avoid.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't make it necessarily negative, because maybe he needed to face that place. Maybe there was something that would be, completing a cycle or something, or that some part of his healing that needed to take place, and part of that was possibly confronting that place where this negative thing had happened. I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas because, it's hard to say for sure, but it doesn't sound like anything negative happened. It's just something saying, no, you really need to, you really need to get, look at this and whatever it is that you took away from that experience. It sounds like you were truly meant to be there, even though you may not have felt like you were ready for it.
Right.
But maybe you were more ready than you knew, and that was maybe why you were brought there. And I can't possibly know for sure, but that's what comes to me.
Right.
Just on the front end of that is that, and I can completely relate to trying to avoid things and they find you anyway. That kind of a situation is incredibly profound, though. Kathy says destiny in there, and maybe it is. Maybe it is tied to destiny somehow or whatever.
Right.
I'm assuming Kathy was talking about this story. But I think it's always hard to be on the outside looking in and create meaning or find meaning in those kind of situations. But I guess, it's going to come from you more than anything, but that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's what and as he said, this is stuff that was taught to him in school because it's part of their lore, their history, whether it be myth or whatever, wouldn't that be cool if they actually taught that over here?
It would be, yeah.
What Roanoke really was. But it's interesting, that it's kind of scary in a way because you get lost in where did they go? The woods? Oh, his girlfriend's or his friend's brother was lost in that field that is like a hop, skip, and a jump from the house that they can see, and you mentioned the graveyard and Robin Lynn in the chat says, I firmly believe in the fairy ring and the fairy forts. I'm sorry. I firmly believe in the fairy ring, in the fairy for it, and being drawn into the fairy forever places. Mm-hmm. So I totally stay away from them when I'm in the forest. One time at about 2:30 in the morning, when I got up at a campground to go to the bathroom, I walked across the campground. I saw a light. I started to follow it, and then I realized and ran back. So like fairy glamour, fairy lights, maybe will-o'-the-wisp. Follow those. But if you take Disney at its word and your name's Merida, you can follow them and come to your destiny.
Right. Absolutely.
But, to harken back to that story that I mentioned about the child that was gone for years, taken by the fairies, do you remember there used to be a kind of a myth or a belief that if you called on the Goblin King, that he would come and take the children.
Oh.
So, it's another one of those that kind of fall into that being missing kind of in the fairy aspect of it.
Right.
So, there's a lot of things out there that say, just stay away from them, just leave them alone. And that's what he was saying. Yeah. Just leave them alone. You'll be fine. Yeah. Don't look at them. Just observe them out of the corner of your eye because you're not supposed to make eye contact with it. I would really like to know what happens if you do, though.
Well, I'd be the dumb guy to do it.
Me too.
I don't think I could just do it out of the corner of my eye. I'd be like, what is that? Yeah. And then I'll let you know if they'll ever let me go. So
I'll call you when I get back.
Yeah, exactly. But I think those kind of stories are very cool. Yes. And I think they're very powerful too. And the fact that you grew up with that tradition still very much alive in your upbringing, I think is amazing, and I only wish more places would do that.
Right.
I see we have a call, and I know who the caller is, but I gotta wait until we cover the second part of this stories from Connor. So just hang tight on hold there, and we'll get to you as soon as I can. All right. Oh, jeez.
Oh, and he mentioned the death clocks too.
Yeah, that's creepy.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that reminds me of Edgar Allan Poe and the Telltale Heart.
Yeah.
Except that person was already dead.
Right. Yeah. So let's go to the second one that he recorded for us. This is the one that actually worked. That's right.
So
hi, Brent. How's things? It's Connor here. So
what?
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay.
Went to you on Messenger the other night. I'll try and talk you through my couple of experiences. I don't think any of them are all that mightily profound or anything, but they're experiences nonetheless.
I think it
is. I forgot about a couple of them, and just as I started delving into the paranormal stuff myself in the past.
Is the same one.
It is the same?
Yeah, it's the same one.
Okay, let me just go ahead a little bit.
Skip forward, yeah.
Let's just see.
Now we gotta wait for it to catch up.
Come with me.
Thank you, Google.
Come with me. Nothing's happening.
It's got a buffer in.
It's got a buffer in, ladies and gentlemen. We're dealing with turn of the century technology. Apparently, up here in the north of Idaho, we haven't quite caught up to the
Thank God for high speed.
high speed dial up, man. 56K.
Instead of it going beep boop boop, this one goes beep 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 beep.
I used to love that handshake.
the modem.
Yeah, the modem handshakes. I used to love that. It's like, yeah, I'm online now.
Yeah.
Felt so cool, and now it's like, oh god.
Why can't I get online?
Yeah, you gotta wait for 5 seconds for a 500 meg movie to buffer. You're having like seizures, and before you'd wait and watch just like 5 minutes to get a picture.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I don't know this, but this is the same.
I'm fairly certain it is.
Okay,
yeah.
well, it's not playing anyway, so I think it's stuff we already covered. But he did have a couple of addendums of other things that he wanted to say, and let me find those before I screw this up any more than I may have already. Okay, so he said, sorry, one last thing. No, that wasn't it. There was more. There was like a full paragraph of stuff. Why am I not seeing that?
I don't have any idea.
Unless maybe I'm mixing two things together here in my head, and I thought it was all one. Let me look at this one.
Oh, that
This one might be different, right?
might be.
No, it's still... I don't know. I'm very confused now. This is an M4. It looks like the same stuff.
Hi, Brent. How's
Yeah,
things?
it's the same. Yeah.
Ah,
I don't know. I thought there was a paragraph of stuff that he had sent as well, but it's gotten lost in the shuffle if that indeed was the case. So I do apologize, Connor, if I'm missing something. I thought you sent me another full big paragraph of things to go over, but what?
oh,
That's the one I just played. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know why it's not working. Right? That's what I'm saying, dude. Let me just click on this. Was there more here? No, that was it. Okay, it looks like I got everything, but in case...
You got click on that.
Oh, let me click on that. Oh, yeah, that's... Oh, here it is.
Ah.
Oh, yep, here it is. Here's
You're welcome.
Thank you, Don, for finding that little 4 in my Google Mail. It's he said there's another 2 little stories that he forgot to mention. Another from grandfather. He recalled vividly as a young boy going out to the shed at the rear of the house where they found his mother sitting, crying to herself on logs. When he asked her what was wrong, she said, "Your Uncle Patty," I'm just saying Patty as I'm unsure of the name, "in America has died." He asked, how do you know? And she replied, "I just seen him." After a few weeks, possibly a few months in them times, the telegraph came in and he had in fact fallen to his death. And it was on the date he appeared to my great-grandmother.
Wow.
That's amazing. Another story is one of my uncles, same side of the family. And after an evening of hearing all these kinds of stories from my grandparents and family, they told me about the time my uncle seen a banshee.
Oh, God.
He was walking home over the same mountain road late one evening after visiting a girl he was seeing, and as he rounded a bend, he seen a creepy elderly woman just to the side of the road. She was dressed all in black and hovering just off the ground. She started shrieking as he saw her, and she screamed at the same pitch while combing her hair, and then threw the comb at him, which means in Irish mythology that he will die. Although another family member did pass a little while after, he was fine. He returned home eventually that night in hysterics and retold his story. That is the last time he ever admitted or repeated it. He denied it to me and any time that I had asked, and he was 20 to 21 with dark brown hair. His hair turned fully white-gray within 6 months. I have another story for you I will record. It's personal to the family member, so I don't want it aired. Okay, I appreciate that. He said, I should note that my grandfather said the banshee and some other entities could appear to some names in family lines. That's what I had heard, too, is that banshees follow family
generation,
lines. Yep. They were Mick, which is one as that stems back to ancient Ireland, meaning son of, and then the second name being the original head of the family. And there are other names applicable, but I don't know them. This is, okay, so then everything else I've already covered.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Very cool, Connor. I'm glad we got a chance to cover it all. That is amazing stuff. I'm absolutely honored and thrilled that you chose to do
Wow.
that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thanks for sending that in.
It's somewhat scary and unnerving.
It is, but it's, I mean, in all of the experiences, nothing was really
Yeah, over
horribly,
the top, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like throwing stuff at them or
Right.
anything. It was just, they saw some weird stuff,
Right. I thought it was interesting, when he started talking about the carriage, he started hearing the carriage come down the way, and I'm like, oh gosh, we've heard about ghostly carriages before, and that's not that's another thing I wouldn't want to come across is ghostly sounds like that, because who knows if it's a hearse or not.
Good point.
Laugh when a hearse goes by.
So Kathy Spencer says the Black Panther is a harbinger for our family. It comes in dreams to announce a death.
Wow.
That's really powerful, Kathy. Jeez. Yikes. So I guess, if you have the Black Panther dream, that's not a good one to have. But yeah, thanks so much, Connor. I appreciate that. And let's get to our call.
Absolutely.
And this is area code 231. You're on the air. Hello, are you there? Area code 231. You're on the air.
It's still checkmarked.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
What the hell?
Hold on.
Okay, let's try it again. I thought I'd clicked it.
I know how to work the thing.
I know. Welcome to the
I was
Paranormal
like,
Portal.
hi guys, and I can't get anybody to respond.
Hello there. Sorry.
That's how the portal works.
It's got all these buttons and stuff. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you fall deep in the portal, you can't get out.
I know,
There is that problem.
There is always that.
They're like fairy rings.
There you go.
Well, welcome to the show.
Oh goodness.
I'm thrilled you called in. Thank you for calling in.
Oh, thank you.
Your call was
I'm
foreshadowed.
Robin Haynes McCrae. I was at the show of Duke,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and I watched Paranormal Portal
Awesome.
right before that. And you guys are awesome.
Oh,
thank
thank you.
you.
Well, it's great to hear from you. I know Duke and I talked today, and he said, hey, she's going to be calling in. And I was like, yes, it's about time.
Yeah. Oh, I love all the paranormal stuff. Like, my whole life has been based on, I mean, not intentionally, but that just is the way my life works, is through the paranormal stuff. So between the Foots and the ETs and everything else. So it was pretty cool.
Wow. So what was your first experience, or what drew you into this?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever got drawn in. I just don't know any different. Like, the first time I had contact with Bigfoot, I was a toddler. My mom tells me stories about when I was, like, just big enough to talk, and I talked about my imaginary friend that was taller than my dad and all covered in hair. And
Wow, that's a different...
I would literally go to the end of our road when I was like 4, and they had all these big dirt mounds, and I would sit down there, and I didn't understand that there was this thing called mind speak, because I've never not had it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would talk to me when I was down there, and then eventually they would just start coming out of the woods, and there's like 4 of them down there that would show up. But I've mind spoke since probably before I could talk.
That's amazing.
But I didn't know it was a thing, and it was comical because a friend of mine back in 2010 had come out to my house, and at the time and it still happens here too, but especially there, the Foots would walk around uncloaked. I mean, it was a free-for-all. Everybody was walking all over.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend, I was really careful about who I had out there, and I had a friend of mine come out, and he's like, you wait till you get to the point where you're doing mind speak, and it's great, and you're going to love it, and it's and I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to be able to do that. I can't wait. And we were in the woods one day, and he said something, and one of the Bigfoots answered through mind speak, and I said, oh, he said this, and he looked at me and he says, you heard that? And I said, well, yeah, I hear it all the time. He said, that's mind speak. I said, oh my God, I didn't know. I'm like, that they've communicated like that with me my whole life, whether it's been through mind speak or verbal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just always, I don't know any different. I mean, and I get the same thing like from the dogmen. I get it from the ETs. I get it from anything. You know, my dogs and cats.
That's wild.
Whatever. If it wants to talk, I can hear it.
So now let me ask you, because I've been curious about this. A lot of people that talk about mind speak, and I think I heard Les Stroud mention this as well, that it's remarkably different than the normal voices you hear in your head. Like you're getting something from somewhere. And can you describe what the difference is, or can you articulate that at all? Or okay.
Well, to begin with, I mean, everybody thinks that they're going to get this huge booming voice in their head.
Okay.
And I'm not going to lie, there's been a couple times, like if I put the foots on ignore and they're trying to get my attention, they'll yell, and I'll hear it like the big booming voice. But for the most part, it's really not this big booming voice. It can be a very soft voice. And in order to understand that you're getting mind speak, you have to realize that it doesn't just come as a voice. Mind speak is a big range of things. It can be a feeling. It can be a random thought that pops in your head. It can be this show of emotions. Like I was out in the woods one time, and there was a female out there, and we had somebody trespass on our property, and she was out with her child, and I was perfectly fine 1 second, and then I just felt this intense fear, and I'm crying, and I'm like, what? Okay, obviously this isn't me, so who's in trouble, and where are you, and what are you? Because through the years, I've learned that it comes in all these various ways. Mm-hmm. You can get a picture in your mind that you don't know where it's going to come. You can get what looks like a movie playing in your head of a scenario, and you don't know where it comes from. These are all forms of mind speak. And I am a firm believer that anybody can mind speak. If I can do it, a trained chimp can do it. But
that would be me.
The thing is, most people don't realize it. That's where the disconnect comes. It's not that they can't. Mm-hmm. It's that these things are so subtle. And I mean really, really subtle. Like you can miss it easily. And there's times I had a foot that was trying to get hold of me today, wasn't feeling particularly well. And he finally went and got my husband. And he's like, okay, tell her I need her help. Because I was busy doing other things, and I just kind of, had everybody blocked out. But it is very subtle. It can be a very soft voice. Now, I will say this. There are times that I'll get 2 or 3 different ones that'll talk, and their voices will seem different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if they talk real soft, there's times that it's just everybody kind of feels the same. But you get a feeling of them. You read their energy. Like when you're hearing them talk, you're going to also feel that what kind of energy that they have. It's like if somebody walks up behind you, and you don't see them, but you can feel that person coming up behind you. Mm-hmm. You're actually reading their energy. That's what alerts you that somebody's back there.
Okay, so
when you're
excuse me just a sec. I just want to parallel this and see if I'm on the right track, because this is a topic I think is incredibly interesting. But I think that everybody has had those experiences where they knew someone was watching them. The feeling of being watched. Would you say that that's along the same guides or along the same lines?
No, I think that's more yes, and that's going to be complicated. I'm not going to say yes or no, because to me, yes, it is.
Okay.
Other people may say, no, that's not a form of mind speak. That's just reading someone's energy.
Okay. But
they're not trying to give you a message. With the mind speak, they're trying to give you a message. When you read the energy, you're just feeling that they're there.
Okay.
But
fair enough. Yeah.
And this is where it gets complicated. You can feel that energy, and this happens many times. A lot of people have experienced this, where you're feeling that energy, and it's all of a sudden, like without words, without a picture in your mind, you are given this whole scenario just by feeling that energy, and it will tell you everything you need to know. Mm. Like you may have an individual standing in the tree line, and you walk by, not realizing he's there, and you feel that energy, and all of a sudden you know he's there because he's been out hunting for his family, and he has 2 little kids, and it's like this download of information. Mm. That part of it is mind speak.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, if you're just feeling like something's there, that's more just picking up on their energy. And everybody, it's kind of individualized. I mean, everybody does it a little bit different. In my case, I get it all the different ways. Mm-hmm. That's just because I'm weird and wacky. But I know people that literally will just get the words. Sometimes if I'm not understanding what they're trying to tell me, they'll spell things out for me, and I'll get the letters. And I'm notorious. I'm a terrible person with names. Anybody that knows me knows I'm awful with names. So when they go to give me names, I never used to even ask names.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine and my husband were like, "Why don't you ask names?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to remember them anyway." You know. So I started asking them, and I'm like, "Okay, I need spelling because you guys don't pronounce things the way we do. So
Right.
just spell it out for me."
Now we got a question from the chat.
Got a lot of questions.
A lot of questions from the chat coming in. So,
Okay.
Don, what was the first one?
Well, somebody asked if this mind speak is the same thing as telepathy. So,
Yeah.
how can you? So you say it is? It's basically the same.
I believe it is.
Okay.
It is, but it is. But you have to remember that it covers a wide range.
Right.
Please don't anybody trying to do it limit yourself to only one way, because you really, until you start to experience, you don't know which way you're going to get it. You don't know if you're going to get it all the different ways.
Right. So when you say ways, do you mean like thinking in words or thinking in pictures, or you're
Yeah,
saying think?
yeah,
think
and you're not
in
even
all
going to
of
be.
it?
You're not even going to be the one doing the thinking. It just comes to you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, whether it's words, whether it's a picture, whether it's a feeling, an emotion, just an idea that came out of nowhere.
And that you
You know,
don't
and
have
I
a reference for it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different. I had an experience where most people that know me know I have just an absolute ton of animals here anyway, but I take in a lot of rescues. I was driving down the road. I was on my way to Walmart. It wasn't going anywhere else. And all of a sudden, I get this panicked voice in my head, "Help me, help me, help me, get me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore." And I was like, okay, number one, who are you, what are you, and where are you?
Mm-hmm.
That's
once
three.
you give me the three questions, then I'll be glad to help. And he's like, "I don't know where I'm at. I'm scared." And I said, "Well, I need a picture. I need a picture of what you look like." And he did. He gave me a picture of what you look like, and it was a small dog, or not small dog, medium-sized dog. And I said, "Okay, babe, but I don't know where you're at to come get you." "Well, I'm in this cage, and I'm scared, and I don't want to be here."
Right.
And I'm like, "I'll come get you, but I don't know where you're at." So as I'm going to Walmart, the next thing I know, I automatically turn into Tractor Supply. I had no idea why to go there. There was nothing there I needed. And I'm like, okay. And I know when this stuff happens, I just have to follow it through. So now I'm sitting in the parking lot of Tractor Supply, and I'm like, still don't know why I'm here. Okay. I walk in the door, and here sits the dog in the cage.
Just abandoned?
One of the, he was one of the second chance animal rescue had him. And he's gone through a lot before they got him. And he was up for adoption. And I'm sure the lady thought I was just nuts, because I walked and I looked at him and I went, "Oh, crap." Walked up to the table and I said, "I need the form to adopt him, but I need to know how much he is." And she's like, "Well, we have other dogs. Do you want to?" No, that's not why I'm here. Apparently, this is why I'm here.
This one's actually
and we've had
speaking
him.
to me. Yeah.
We've had him a year and a half now.
Wow.
We couldn't live without him. He's
Cool.
the dearest thing ever. But that's how it happens.
Right.
Sure.
It's very spontaneous. You have a lot of spontaneity in it. Now, if you want to initiate that mind speak, that's perfectly fine. Figure what you want to talk to, focus on that, and just in your mind talk. And they get it. This telepathy, when it comes to all things out in the universe, whether it's animals, pets, cryptids, ETs, whatever, they all can hear you. It's like on this universal microphone that they can do. But you have to, the thing that I always tell people, if you're going to do it, be responsible.
Right.
Start learning what every single thing you talk to, what their energy feels like. And the reason I say that is for safety. I'm like the safety police on everything. And things will come to you in mind speak and say, "Oh, I'm Winnie the Pooh. I'm wonderful. I'm great." And the whole time they want to kill you. I mean, the good and the bad is out there, and they can all hear you. So my point is, feel that energy. If it feels funny to you, if it feels a little bit, where it gives you goosebumps, or maybe doesn't feel all warm and fuzzy, don't respond, don't connect.
Right.
Because there's a lot of other things out there that will talk to you, but you have to be careful and you have to be safe with it.
Wow.
Right.
More questions?
Yeah. So another follow-up question, kind of naturally to that, somebody asked, do you think that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, these forest people, do you think that they wonder why a lot of us kind of ignore them because we don't know how to speak back to them? Because the question came in this way. It said, do you ever think that they wonder if we're ignoring them because they can speak to other animals? Why do you think they wonder why we can't comprehend them? Does that make sense?
Sometimes, yeah, it does. Sometimes they do, but only time that they wonder that is like if they know that they're talking to somebody that can actually hear them.
Okay.
And everybody can, again, I repeat, everybody can do this. It's whether or not you realize that that's what's going on.
Right.
If it's people that they know frequently mind speak, then yeah, they're like, why are you ignoring me? And they have no patience.
Right.
They could stand behind a tree and never move for hours on end so you won't see them. But if they have something to say, it is worse than a toddler wanting a candy.
Right.
Okay, they have no patience. It's terrible. And so when it gets to that, then they do. They're like, why are you ignoring me? And they get frustrated.
Right.
Now, if it's somebody that doesn't mind speak, they do a little bit, but not as much. I mean, they know that they're learning how to do it. They do. It takes quite a while for them to get to that point with someone that is not able to mind speak to get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to realize that they know what's in our heart. They know what's in our minds before we can finish it. My husband, Pat, and I will go to ask them a question. We don't even get the whole question out. We've got an answer.
Huh.
And I'm like, you know what? Just be respectful. Let me finish the question before you answer it. Get out of my head.
Don't
because
interrupt
it's
me.
They go through your head like it's a file of facts.
You know, there's another question that relates to what you were just talking about. Do they ask permission or do they just barge in?
They generally barge in. We do have some that are a little bit more respectful and will actually, I don't know if you want to say ask for it, but they will come in very gradual, and they aren't just like they just, bombard you with it.
Okay.
They normally try, and a lot of people, I'm not going to say everybody because obviously I don't know everybody, but a lot of people, when they do have mind speak, it all starts out as a progression. And generally, they've seen you in the woods or whatever, and sometimes they'll work their way through the dreams so they can meet with you in dream state. Dream state is every bit as real as it is in our relatively awake world. I mean, I've had my arm broken, I've had cuts, I've had busted lips, I've had bruises from different things that they pulled me into during the night. So it's every bit as real. But when it comes to the mind speak, there are some that are very well-mannered about approaching you with it. They don't, believe it or not, they don't really want to scare everybody.
Right.
Okay, now that being said, they have a wicked sense of humor. Like, these are the Jack Bennies of the cryptid. You have no idea. And they love nothing better than to pull pranks and jokes on you.
Wow.
And jump up and yell boo just to see if you're going to, wet yourself. So, I mean, they have a wicked sense of humor, but when it comes to the mind speak, they're usually pretty good about it. I did have one incident. I have 3 or 4 of them that I am extremely close with, and I have been for years. And one of them, a friend of mine and I were sitting out in the yard. It was 12:30 at night, and the Bigfoots were all walking around, and we were just kind of sitting there. And he was standing behind us, and our back was up against the tree line. I knew he was there. But my friend was telling me something, and it was important to her, and I'm trying to focus on my friend, and I'm listening to her, and he kept trying to mind speak with me, trying to get my attention. And they always call me Mom because my kids called me Mom. So for the longest time, when I was a kid, they knew my name was Robin. And then they gave me a name from their people that they called me. But then when my kids were little, they called me Mom because that's what the kids called me. And I can hear him in my mind, and he's going, Mom, 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 Mom. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Just like a toddler.
And I'm like tuning him out. Yeah. And I'm listening to my friend, and it must have upset him because all of a sudden all you hear verbally is, Robin, as loud as it can go. And I looked at my friend, and I said, please tell me you heard that. And she's like, people in other cities heard that. I mean, it was just like, it's a megaphone.
Right. So you mentioned earlier, and I think this, you've already answered this question, but let me answer it to get a little more clarification. Is mind speak the same feeling you get when being watched, when you feel like you're being watched?
Okay, I would say no. If you're just that feeling of being watched, that is not mind speak. That is picking up on the energy.
Oh, yes. Okay.
They have their energy is different than ours. So you're going to feel that because it is so different. No, I would say no. With the mind speak, if you were to get, when you felt that individual, if you got a sense of their emotions, if they were scared or happy or whatever, and you picked up on those emotions, that would be mind speak.
Okay.
Just feeling their presence is not mind speak.
There was an incident with Warren. What's her name?
Elizabeth Warren?
No.
Oh, not the presidential one. Oh, okay. Lorraine Warren.
Lorraine Warren. There was a yeah, no.
We're not.
Wow,
We're not
left
going
field.
politics here, Don. I'm just saying.
No, so there is a story that's been pushed back, and we've covered it on the show before, where she was at somebody's house or somewhere. She was somewhere. I can't remember exactly. But
They
she
thought they were
got
being
this.
haunted.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and she went and checked it out,
And she went out into
Yeah.
the woods or something, and she picked up this. She said it was pictures in her head, and she had it
That's
was
mind state.
yeah. So she was saying that basically, like you were talking about with the pup that you saw at the tractor store.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how it was wounded. It had a wound on its foot, and it couldn't walk. It couldn't get away. And then something happened. I think somebody like shot a shotgun or something and scared it, and it
fell over a cliff. Yeah,
yeah.
It got scared.
So that's kind of a similar thing then. Is that
No,
she
it's a
experienced?
bullhorn.
Yeah,
They did the
something.
bullhorn.
yeah,
one.
that's mind state.
Yeah. Okay.
When you're getting those pictures in your anything that's random that you know it's like, and we've all done this from time to time. You'll be sitting somewhere and all of a sudden you get this random thought in your head and like, okay, where did that come from? Well, that's mind speak. Something put it there.
Well, something's talking to me all the
You know.
time. Then. No,
Well, yeah, and the thing is a lot of times we don't even realize they're
Right.
doing it, and it's like they must think we're village idiots.
right.
We
Yeah.
always
The
find
village
a way.
called. The village called. They want their idiot back.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they're like these hairless humans. God, what are we going to do with them?
Right.
They never get it right.
So we also, our friend Cade over in Australia has a question for you, and I wonder. I wonder. He asks, have you ever had mind speak in another language? Now, let me preface this.
Yeah.
Or let me ask a quick clarifying question to our friend Cade. Cade, do you mean another language like Aussie? But I would imagine that the answer would be no, because it would be objects and ideas that you would be familiar with, or pictures that you would be familiar with.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, they do try to make it so it's familiar to you. And, like, when you're mind speaking, you can mind speak anywhere in the world.
Okay.
It
Well,
doesn't matter where the other being is. You can
so
mind speak with them.
proximity
It
isn't
really,
an issue.
distance makes no
Wow.
difference. I do it with them all over the place.
Wow.
So they generally will try to switch whatever language they have into your language.
Okay.
Now, I went in, I think it was either 2012 or 13. I spoke at the International Scientific Conference in Russia with Igor Borstov.
Oh, wow.
I was asked there. Yeah, it was wonderful. I had a wonderful time. And I was asked to go there and present information and photos and that kind of thing. So it was in Siberia. We went up in the mountains and we went into and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, sorry, Igor, Azov Cave. And as we went back to this cave, there's a large group of us. We were all single filely cutting through, the woods. And there was a very large black Bigfoot that was behind this tree. And I saw it, and I knew he knew I saw it. I think it was intentional because he kind of stepped out from behind the tree and looked at me. So now I see him, and he looked at me, and I turned around to get Igor because, as we all know, Igor's been trying his whole life to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes to my house every time he's in the States and stays with me for months at a time, and they pull pranks on him the whole time. It's like, you guys just show him. You're ridiculous. So I went to turn around to get him, and he was talking to some journalists. So I turned back, and he was the Bigfoot was walking away. And I told him, I said, I'm not going to hurt you. Come back. And he said, no, too many people. And off he went.
Right.
So I let Igor know that I had seen him. And I had talked to them. I was mind speaking with them while we were in this cave. And after I left and I returned from Russia and I was back home, this was like 2 or 3 months later. And when I was in the cave, they were showing me images of what they would do in the cave. And basically they were using that cave to have children in. And the way it was set up it worked out really well. They had a small area that had a slight stream in there, so there was water in there. And there at the back of it, there were like 2 chambers. And the one, they had actually built a nest in the opening of this chamber. And what they had done was the other children would play in that back chamber, and the mom could lay in that nest. And none of the kids could get out without crossing over mom.
Right.
And so they contacted me from Russia, and they were all upset, and they were speaking in Russian. And I'm like, guys, just wait a minute. Like, Igor's been trying to get me to learn Russia for the longest time. I'm hopeless. I can't do it. So, either flip it over to the English side or, spell it out or something. I can't understand a word you're saying. And once they calmed down, they had no problem turning it around and speaking in English.
Huh.
And it was apparently somebody, there had another group of people that had tried to go into that cave, and they had a female that was actually wanting to use that cave to give birth.
Oh, wow.
So I contacted Igor right away, and I'm like, you got to get these people out of the cave. Like, they're having a fit. And he said, did they tell you where they're at? And I said, yeah. And I told him, going by the picture they showed me and what they told me of where they were at. And he said, how did you know about that set of caves? I said, I don't. I'm telling you, this is what they told me. He said, that's exactly where another set of caves is. I said, I told you. I mean, I'm not there, but that's what they're telling me. And I said, that's where they're at, but they want you guys out of their cave. So Igor made some calls, and they did let up going into the cave for a while. Whether or not it was ever used, I don't know. But,
Wow.
yeah, when they contacted me, they were so upset they were all speaking in Russia, and I'm like, no.
Right.
we have to dumb it down for this hairless human. I got to have English, people. Now, the thing is they have their own language.
Right.
They don't necessarily have to have English or Russian or Japanese or Mexican or whatever. They have their own language. And it really, when people don't know what it means, it sounds like they're speaking really fast and gibberish.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have their own language.
So does that
They
explain?
can use any language that's out there, but they do have their own.
So that kind of brings up the question about the samurai speak. Now, you just said when they talk really quick, they sound like gibberish. What about the samurai speak we hear about?
I think that's what she's talking
Is
about.
that
It's basically the same thing. I mean,
Okay.
I call it gibberish because I don't,
Right.
that's just my own terminology
Okay.
for it. It's fast. It's hard to understand. When they speak, their vocal cords don't come from the same place as ours. Like when
Right.
we talk, your vocal cords are up at the top of your throat
right?
and in there. I mean, when you can feel it vibrate there. For them, when they speak, it comes down like right at the base of where our throat is at, or at the bottom, right in the chest cavity. And it's very deep. It vibrates.
Right.
Like it sounds almost gurgled. But yeah, that samurai chatter, that's all part of their language.
Okay.
It really is.
Okay. Someone else asks a more metaphysical question in a manner of speaking. The question is, are they from another dimension, or are they from underground? Are they terrestrial? Are they extraterrestrial?
They are, well, here's the thing. A big wide circle of yes to everything above. They are multidimensional. That being said, they can be in complete flesh and blood and be just as much in a flesh and blood mode as you and I. And then in a blink of an eye, they can be multidimensional. They do move through several dimensions. When I've asked them what dimensional being they are, they say they go up to the 9th dimension.
Wow. Okay.
I've had elders tell me that they've gone up to the 11th. So, but they do. They go through they can go through dimensions. The paranormal abilities they have are just uncanny. And they get that from the ET site. Now, if you look at Dr. Melba Ketchum's study, in the study it says they are a human hybrid. They are human and unknown. And they have to list it as unknown because nothing that has ever been tested on the father side, which is the nuclear side, has ever shown up in any database that we have. So from a scientific standpoint, it has to say human and unknown. And I get people that contact me and they're like, are you saying they're an ET? I said, I'm saying the scientific part says they are unknown.
So what do you
And I
think?
would never change that. My personal belief and what they tell me they are, they're a human hybrid. They were crossed with an ET thousands of years ago. I mean, it's where they get everything. I mean, they've got these paranormal abilities that are just off the charts.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there was?
I've watched it.
Are you familiar with Lloyd Pye and his work?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask that question too.
I've only heard one of Lloyd Pye's speeches or
I have
talks.
not heard. I know of him. I have not heard anything.
Okay, there's a
So
video.
I'm kind of at a disadvantage there.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you the name of the video, and you can certainly check it out. It's really interesting food for thought, and it's something that seems to make sense on a lot of levels. But the video is called "Everything You Know Is Wrong" by Lloyd Pye, and you can find it on.
Oh, I would back that up. I support that 110%. We have been lied to and manipulated forever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
But,
his viewpoints are very interesting. He takes it from a
yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to that.
Yeah.
he seems to think that we are the hybridized versions of that, but I think it's still interesting nonetheless that it shows something happened thousands of years ago.
My thoughts on that would be, I'm gonna watch it, but my guess is I'm gonna back them up on that too.
Sure.
But yeah, before the study with Dr. Ketchum ever happened years ago, I asked them, because when I was a kid growing up, I was always this big animal lover. I was happy. Give me my animals and leave me alone. I'm a happy clam.
Mm-hmm.
But so I just thought, oh, look at these they're animals. They're covered in hair. They're shaggy like my dog. They're animals. But I didn't understand, because even as a child, I watched the paranormal abilities.
Mm.
But by the time I was 4, my first abduction was at age 4. When I was my first ET abduction, and then the ships were always around, and I had the Bigfoots around, and I had other things around, and a giant dog. So for me, when I was a little kid, I just didn't know that there was a world that didn't have these things in it.
Mm.
And so for me, I would watch all these things that they did, and I didn't think anything of it. It wasn't a shock. But I would go to my parents between the age of 4 and 5, and I would talk to them about the Bigfoots and the stuff that they did, and the stick structures and the ETs and the UFOs. And my mom and dad are looking at me like, okay, who is this kid? And at that time, you didn't have the books in the library about him. Nobody was talking about him. I couldn't have got the information anywhere because it just wasn't available.
Right.
And nobody could understand that, but the information that I knew, and as I got older, I never changed my story. I never changed my story on the abduction. I never changed my story on what I knew. It stayed the same. And then as I got older and books started coming out and people started talking about it, my mom and dad are looking at me and they're going, oh, my God, how did you know this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they told me. They told me. But I asked the Bigfoots. I did.
Sure.
A long time ago. I said, what are you? Because I thought they were this animal, and then the older I got and the more paranormal things they were doing, it's like, okay, wake up, dingbat. Obviously they're not. And they didn't act like an animal. They always acted like a people.
Sure.
And so I asked them, and they said, well, we're people like you. And I said, okay, then why do you look so different? And they said, well, we're people like you. And then they pointed up to the sky, and they said, and star people.
Mm.
So when I was lucky enough to meet Dr. Ketchum, who's now one of my dearest friends, she said to me one day, she said, why is it that, you're helping me with all this stuff, but yet you've never asked the results?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody bugs me and hounds me for the results. And I said, well, I already know them. It's not that big of a thrill anymore. I've known it for years.
Sure.
And so I told her what they told me, and she was shocked. She said, well, we don't have anything to compare on the male side, so we can't list it as anything because we don't know. We simply do not know from a scientific standpoint. And I said, well, I agree with that, but I'm just telling you what they're claiming.
Right.
And when the whole big thing where everybody started talking about them cloaking, I had known that they had cloaked for years.
Sure.
I never had anything to back it up with.
Mm-hmm.
Other than I was a crazy person, and I was outside one day and it was fall. And I'm walking down this narrow path that went back to our backwoods. And as I'm walking, I'm looking next to me and I'm watching footprints being made in the dirt. Wow. And there's nothing standing there. It's just as I'm walking, it's doing the same thing. And so when snow hit, going down the same path, and I knew they were there because I could feel their energy. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching footprints being made, and nothing's there. But I had one that I'm extremely close to. Came up 10 feet from me. I was standing in the yard with him. He was about 10 feet from me, and then I had a female about 50 feet off my left, and then one about a male that was red that was like 60, 70 feet ahead. And I was standing there, and I turned her. I watched him cloak. I mean, I saw his whole entire body from top to bottom, and he just cloaked right in front of me.
That's amazing.
And it was like, okay. How do you deny it when you watch it? I've watched them going in and out of portals. I've watched other things coming in and out of portals. I have pictures in my yard of portals opening and closing.
Wow.
And one has a head of this weird thing hanging out the top of it. It's bizarre.
I have to admit, when I first started doing the show, I thought it was just another being that was out there. I didn't think it was an animal necessarily, but I just figured they were pretty smart and they just avoided us. But as I've done the show and as I've talked to people both on this show and when I've guest hosted other shows, to have people call in that were researchers that have witnessed the same thing. I mean, they can't all be wrong. And so it's like, wow, maybe that really is possible.
Exactly.
Now, it was a hard journey for me,
People,
though. You know, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, people, will say to me, and they're like, well, you're crazy, and how can you believe these things? I said,
Right.
I've watched it. How can I not?
Mm-hmm. And getting back to
and
what
people will come to me and tell me that they have to, they have to see it to believe it.
Right.
And I always tell everybody, switch that around. Believe that all things are possible, and then open your eyes, because once you start believing that, what you see will blow your mind.
No, that's great advice. Now, getting back also to what you were talking about with Melba Ketchum's study, with them being, something else and potentially people from the stars that they shared with you, that's not a lot different from a lot of First Nation legends, and that's what I find really amazing. Is that carryover. A lot of First Nations, like our friend Nase always talks about, he's a Anishinaabe, and he talks about that their ancestors were from the stars and came to this world. So,
yeah,
I mean, this is not a new thing that's isolated just to the Bigfoot.
It's not. We've been trained to believe this stuff doesn't exist. We've been programmed to believe that it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very unfortunate. And it's the same thing with MindSpeak. I believe that personally, everybody can do MindSpeak. I think we always have. I think thousands of years ago, they probably did it then. But we have been dumbed down. We have been taught that this stuff doesn't exist
but
by the powers that be, and we believe it.
Let me interject this, though. I think we always do MindSpeak. We just don't realize that we're doing it.
Absolutely.
How many times
110%.
have people, I was just going to say that, or, hey, I was going to say the same word. Don and I do it all the time. I mean, it's like, I'm pretty sure that we're MindSpeaking on some level. It's just that it's so foreign to our...
My husband and I have done it.
Sure.
I will say this, it is harder to MindSpeak with humans. Our type of humans.
Well,
it really is, because I think we're just so thick-headed. We're waiting for something else to happen that doesn't.
No, I think it's because we have really busy minds.
Yeah.
We're not tuned naturally. We are tuned unnaturally, and I think that's what the problem is. And you're just able to get to that point where you can baseline with it and make that connection.
Well, I've helped a lot of people connect with the whole MindSpeak thing.
That's cool.
And I don't say teach them, because I don't know. I mean, to teach it, it's something that you already have. You just have to know how to tap into it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, what I'll do is I'll say, go to a place that it's quiet, whether it's your bedroom, your study, whatever. Go by yourself, sit down, lay down, whatever. But close your eyes.
Mm.
Okay? Once you're used to it, you can do it with your eyes open. You can do it while you're riding a bike. You can do it in the shower. But to start, close your eyes. And they're like, why would we close our eyes if we can't see anything anyway? And I'm like, because with your eyes open, your eyes are looking at all these different things, and whether intentionally or unintentionally, if your eyes can see it, your mind is processing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want that. You want that clarity. You don't want anything coming in and out of your mind. You just don't. So, to start out, if it's easier, and it's not always easier this way for people, do it what works for you, by all means. But I tell people, go someplace quiet, lay on the bed, close your eyes, and just relax. Yeah. But I do want to point out one thing with MindSpeak.
Sure.
Just because you can't hear it doesn't mean they can't.
Oh, good point.
So, let's say you want to be out in the woods, you want to connect, you're trying to, find a way to communicate with them or anything else. Just speak. Whether it's in your mind, whether it's verbally, they're going to hear it if there's anything out there. Okay? You may not hear the answer because you're not in a place where you've picked up, on how to access that in your brain, and that's okay, because everybody will in time. But they can hear you. Them hearing you has nothing to do with your ability to hear them at all.
Well,
and people don't realize that. They think it has to be that two-way street or none at all. That's not true.
Wow.
It really and truly isn't. And we've tested that theory time and time again with various people, just because if I'm going to tell somebody that, I want to know that I've either experienced it or witnessed it or something. And they really, and I've asked them, I point blank asked them, I'm like, what if I can't hear you? Can you still hear me? And they said, well, we can always hear you.
We can always hear you. You guys are practically screaming
it's
all
like,
the time.
you can't get away. That is the thing with these guys. You literally cannot get away with anything, ever.
Mm-hmm.
It is not possible.
Like even just entering their domain, they know you're there the minute you set foot in there, even if they're not in the area, right?
As soon as the intent, yeah, even as soon as you have the intent in your brain or in your heart that you're going to go there, you've already been outed.
Yeah.
You might, I mean, really, you've already been outed.
Sure.
I had an area in Michigan, and I had my own place too, but I lived out in this huge, huge forest, and there was a couple areas that I would go to because different clans had contacted me and wanted me to come there, whatever. And I had this one area, and it was an old motorbike trail that actually went through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And very rarely would anybody ride a dirt bike through there. But because they were concerned about people in there, they had guards that would stand right as you came out of the state park's parking lot, there was guards that would stand there, and they would be there cloaked. And I'd walk by them, and I could feel them.
Mm-hmm.
And my foots had already told me that they would be standing there anyway, so I already knew they were going to be there. But I could feel them, and they would literally stay cloaked, and they would come right up behind me. And I'd be like, I know you're there. You know, I already know you're there, and if you put your hand on my shoulder, I'm going to bop you. Because some of them will come up, and I don't mind it, but they do what they call counting coup.
Oh, sure.
And counting coup is where they stay cloaked, they come up behind you, and they put their hand on you.
Right.
They don't hurt you, they don't cause you any stress or anything, but they do, and they'll put their hand on you. And I have very thick hair.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, they are obsessed with my bloody hair. And they will come up and pat my hair like I'm a dog. And I'm like, just leave the mud and the leaves out of my hair. That's all I'm asking. And I used to, when the one house that I stayed in, I always had my bedroom, and I still do, have my bed by the window because they love to look in the window. That's a big deal.
Sure.
I'm the only person in America that does not like curtains. I will never have curtains. I don't, because I know they sit out there all night long looking in my windows.
That's kind of creepy.
And so it used to drive my kids nuts. My kids grew up with these guys. I mean, they are used to it. But my kids would be like, Mom, do you know how disconcerting it is to look in the backyard and see them sitting there looking into the house? Like, really, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I would go, my bed was by the window, and I always slept with my window open. I like my window open at night. And the one window, my cat had knocked the screen out. And so they would literally put their hand in my window at night and play with my hair.
Oh, God.
And what they do is they can put you, and they do this to other animals as well, is they put you in a trance.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know what anybody else calls it. I call it trance.
Sure.
And so your brain is active, but you aren't moving. And I'd be laying there asleep, and I'd feel them playing with my hair, but then I'm not moving. And I'm like, okay, great, here we go. And I'm laying there fully aware that they're doing something, but I can't move. I'd get up in the morning with mud and leaves in my hair. So I started putting little toys and stuff on the windowsill, thinking, well, maybe they'll play with those and they'll leave my bloody hair alone.
Right.
And that didn't work either. They took all the toys and still played with my hair. But if I moved the bed away from the window, they would pound on that wall of my bedroom all night long. It was ridiculous. They'd scream and they'd holler. But they would come and get me at 2 o'clock in the morning. This was back in Michigan.
Wow.
The ones here, I mean, they're up in my face all the time, but not as much as my group in Michigan. But some of the ones from Michigan are now here. But they would, at 2 o'clock every morning, pounding on the walls to the point where if I slept through it, my kids would come get me, and they're like, Mom, please just go out in the woods with them so we can sleep. And I'm like, fine, throw your mother out in the woods in the dark.
Yeah.
And I'd go out there in my pajamas, no flashlight, no nothing, go out there and sit on a log, and they would chit-chat and make noises and carry on, and I hear them walking all around, and they'd be running through the side of the yard.
Wow.
That's really impressive. I mean, that's quite a reality you're privy to, and it sounds amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I love it, and we've got a lot of activity here as well. I have a family. Well, I've got 5 different clans that wander in and off my property. I've got some of the ones from Michigan, some from Tennessee, and then I've got 3 groups that were in this area when I moved in. And so we've got one little family group and that has a young boy, and they come in a lot, and they've got 3 other Bigfoots that come with them, and the 3 will sit right across from my house. Right across from my house, I live on a dirt road, is a 200-acre pine tree farm, and they love it over there. And the gentleman knows that they're there, and that place is under lock and key. Nobody gets to go in there because he knows they're in there. And so the baby will come up. But this baby, I mean, he's not very old, and he's huge. Like, he'll come up and get up on my porch, and I have a picture of this huge Bigfoot sitting on my porch. And it's one of the youngsters. I mean, it's crazy because their growth rate is so accelerated. And he runs up and down through the, we have pine trees, and they've gutted out like a tube. On the side of my property, there's all these trees and pine trees and bushes and stuff. And when I moved in 2 years ago, they were just these full, beautiful bushes. Now they're hollow.
Oh, nice.
They've made a tunnel through it on both sides. And, you know, we get pictures from them there. We get them that come up in the back. We get a lot of them that come up in the back. I mean, a lot. I've gotten a lot of good pictures,
wow,
you know, through here.
How long?
We get everything. We have the dog man. I've got a picture of a lizard man back there. It's craziness. It is. It's my reality.
That's
I wouldn't change it. I would never change it. I
Sure.
love it, but it is craziness.
How long do they live generally?
Oh, good question.
When in the flesh and blood, like as far as our physical body like ours, they can go up 60, 70, 80 years old. It's not that much different than ours, but they also transcend from that into spirit form, and you're talking 300 and 400 years that they'll stay in spirit form. And we had one that was really aggressive that a friend of mine and I worked with trying to remove. And, I mean, every time we thought we got rid of her, she'd come back in spirit form. And I'm like, this is insane. You know, she's finally gone for good now because she was quite dangerous. But, yeah, again, you know, they don't stay in just these physical bodies.
That's intense.
They can be. People say, no, I saw them. They're flesh and blood. Yeah, you did see them in flesh and blood. I'll give you that because they can be flesh and blood.
Okay.
But they also have the ability to transcend from flesh and blood to spirit form to multidimensional beings.
So after the spirit form comes the multidimensional, or what is the
no,
flow
I
here?
think my understanding, and believe me, I'm not an expert. I don't believe there's experts in this field.
Sure, right.
I mean, I can tell you what they've taught me. I can tell you what I've seen. I think that the thing is that they can be in this flesh and blood body and then go into a portal in a heartbeat, and they end up being multidimensional. As far as being in spirit form, I've seen them because I've watched them, and I know everybody's going to think I'm a nut job. I don't care. I've watched them walk through walls, walk through my living room, and right out the other door.
Oh, wow.
And I've talked to countless witnesses that have gone through the same thing. You know, and I think at that point they can go into a spirit form. I think it's all up to them. I don't think it's a process where once they're done being this, they're this. I think they have, from what I have seen, my own personal belief, they can do all of it whenever they want to.
Yeah, I'm just curious because we often wonder, you know, I mean, especially about the age thing. I've always wondered, are they, you know, cooking like 30 or 40 years and then it's lights out?
I had one. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the ones that are flesh and blood, in the flesh and blood phase. They're gone between 60 and 70.
Okay.
You know, and the other thing that I learned a long time ago is it varies. They all have the ability to have these paranormal abilities. It's all there. However, if they're not taught by the parents that they have them, the telepathy they all do. There's not one out there that won't speak telepathically.
Okay.
But as far as a lot of these other abilities, if they're not taught by their parents, they possess them. It's almost like they don't realize they can. And the only thing I can say to compare that to for anybody to understand would be look at the Amish people. We have, I mean, they can do anything we can do. They're a normal human, but they choose to live their life in a manner where there's no electricity, you know, there's no motor vehicles or whatever that sector chooses to live like.
Okay.
Because the children are raised that way, so that's what they know.
That's wild.
And it seems to be that it works that way with them as well. You know, like this little guy that plays in my front yard, he's got it all. He can cloak, he can uncloak in a blink of an eye. He can do anything he wants to do. But then I've had others, you know, like they used to bring the babies up towards my house, and then the one day they actually brought a baby into my backyard for me to see. And they were all flesh and blood, but they weren't afraid either. I mean, they knew I wasn't going to bother them. They'd been around my house for years.
Sure. Wow.
You know, and so they let me get quite close and let me, you know, watch the baby play. And now we had I used to. I don't do it to this group here only because they don't like it. I used to put out, and I would gift them things, which I don't recommend to people because certain groups, you start feeding them and then you stop, and it's a disaster.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't know anybody else was doing all the things that I was doing with my group, and I was off in my own little world. And so I was just, they wanted food, and I was feeding them every night. I was putting just all kinds of stuff out. And the babies would come out and play in the morning, and they would come in there and they would get stuff that I'd put out. And I had gone to the grocery store, and I came back, and as I pulled in, I must have scared one because the next thing I know, he was eating a bagel that I had put out there for him in this one section. And I'm getting bombarded with these bagels, and he's just sitting there on the ground. I saw him. He was absolutely precious. He's sitting right there. And they looked at me, and boom, he was cloaked. He was gone. You didn't even see him anymore.
Wow.
You know, they can cloak and they can shimmer. Shimmer's different from cloaking. Shimmering is, it almost looks like you're looking through a glass of water.
Okay.
Where when you cloak, you just don't see them.
Okay.
The
Yep.
house next door, I warned them that they were going to be coming in their yard because they were already in mine. And so when they showed up, it was a better transaction than if they, didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And the lady's adult son was there, and he was standing outside. And he just turned around, and he was standing, this huge male was standing right there.
Oh.
And he said, you wouldn't believe it, he left so fast. I said, well, did he go on 2 or 4 legs? Because they'll go down on all 4s. He said, I never saw him leave. He was just gone. And I said, because he never left. He was cloaked. And he about died.
He was still right there. So we got another question in the chat, and this goes back to the problem one that you were talking about. She says, was she malevolent in her spirit form, talking about the old Bigfoot?
She was aggressive in spirit form and flesh and blood. That girl was dangerous. She, they're not all good is the problem. But then you have to look at it that we're not all good with our people either.
Sure.
The majority of them are very kind. And I will say this, when you say that the good ones are good, they are actually the purest form of love that we will ever experience because we don't have any concept of it.
Right.
They will give you what I call an invisible hug, and they will just project that feeling of love on you, and it will literally make you cry because it's that pure. But the bad ones are lethal, and I'm not kidding you, because how do you stop something that has the abilities that these things have?
Yeah.
There's just no way. So unfortunately, but that's with the grand scheme of everything. There's good and bad in everything, and there are more good than bad. A lot of the bad ones will try to go off by themselves, and if our people would quit barging into their territories and, well, I'm going to see you anyway, we probably wouldn't get hurt as much. But, yeah, that particular female that I was referring to, she was the devil incarnate. She was bad.
Oh,
she was really bad. I was not sorry to see her go.
Yeah.
And she had been ostracized already from the other clans to where she was no longer allowed to reside with anybody when they finally took her out.
Right.
And, yeah, she was bad.
Wow.
So,
I got bluff charged by one in Texas, and, that was another one that he was not good. I had went to help a friend set up a habituation site, and I flew to Texas. I went out there, and he's like, oh, no, there's this area back here we got to go because they like to hang out there. And I said, okay. So we go back there, and it was all these berry bushes that were back there, and they would go back there to eat. And I'm looking at the ground, and there's, like, dead animal bones all over the place. And I looked at him and I said, my God, Dale. And his grandkids were with us. There's 3 small children with us.
Oh, geez.
And I said, what are we doing here? We got to get out of here. He said, oh, no, it's great. I come back here all the time. I said, you just took your grandkids to their dinner table. Like, really? What are you doing, you fool? And the kids were having fun. They went and ran. There's a tree stand out there, and they ran up this tree stand.
Mm-hmm.
And they're playing in the tree stand, and you can see the bushes shaking, and there's foots coming in from all different sides. And we were like in a little horseshoe area.
Right.
And the truck was back like probably 150 feet from this tree stand.
That's a long
And now
way.
these foots have moved in, and I'm worried about these kids. So I walked past the foot to where I knew the male that was the head of it was at. And I'm back there thinking, please don't kill me. But I was worried about these kids, and I'm telling my friend, get your grandkids and get them out of here. And he couldn't get the kids out of the tree. And I'm like talking to this thing, and he's going, leave the kids. you will leave the children. I said, I'm not leaving the children. No, you will leave the children. And I'm like, okay, apparently we're miscommunication. You're not getting the memo. Kids are not staying, you know. And he was getting really agitated, and he's stamping branches and stomping his feet, and Dale's hearing him, and the kids are hearing him, but they couldn't see him.
Right.
Thank God, because it would have terrified these kids.
Yeah.
And so I refused to move, and he bluff charged me, and I was standing next to a palmetto bush. He came by so fast, it leveled this 4-foot-tall palmetto bush, and just my hair just blew right back off my shoulders, and it absolutely terrified these kids.
Yeah.
And I'm down there looking like an idiot going, oh, no, he's just trying to play. It's so much fun. Why don't you guys come down and, you know, go back in the truck and we'll go get ice cream and everything. And they did. They came back down, but I held my ground, which doesn't always work. It worked in this case. Thank you, Lord. But so the kids got back into the truck. Dale's white as a ghost because now he's like flipping out. And I'm just like, I refused to turn my back on him. I backed up all the way to the truck.
Yeah.
And we got in the truck. I said, now will you please keep these kids out of this spot? Do you get it in your head? And he's like, oh, my God, I can't believe I saw what I just saw.
No doubt.
You know, and when we went to leave, the thing's running up behind it and hitting it on the back of the truck. You know, there's just places they don't want you at.
Right.
But I think the key for people is you have to learn their ways because their ways are not ours.
Right.
And they don't understand why we behave and act and do the things that we do, and vice versa. So the key to it is learning their ways. And right now, myself, Jan Carter, Dr. John Stamey, William Henry, Don Tart, we did these last summer. We're going to be doing them through the fall and the summer this year as well. We're doing a bunch of conferences just to inform people. You know, this is their language. This is their alphabet. They can write. I have pictures of drawings that they've done on trees. You know, they can do all these things, but you have to learn their ways. You can live with them around you. I've done it my whole life. It can be done. I know thousands of people do the same thing, but you have to learn their ways. What we consider an aggressive move in their world is not being aggressive. So there's a lot of misinterpretations.
Sure.
I would, and you know, if you're going to research that, you have to learn it.
I would wager that we all live around them, because I don't think that they're
Absolutely.
They're not as far away as we believe they are. A lot of times, it seems to me.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
When I lived in Michigan, Detroit, and most people know Detroit is, you know, this really dingy, dirty suburb.
Right.
Oh, you're the one that was talking with us today about that.
Yeah. I was talking about it, I think, last time I was on your chat. They saw them going in and out of a broken down house.
Jeez. Wow.
They used to go I lived in a small town, and they would go into town and they'd raid the dumpsters at the pizza place.
Jeez.
They'd hit those dumpsters 2 or 3 times a week.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it's a lot easier than
Free food.
Trying to pull berries off of dried bushes and stuff, trying to make a living.
Well, yeah. Yeah. You know, I mean, now the ones in Michigan, I could get them to eat anything I put out there. There's a few things they didn't like. They didn't like their chicken cooked. They didn't mind the other meat cooked, but they didn't like the chicken cooked. And I would, for holidays, they'd get a turkey or a ham, and I'd make this whole thing and take it out. They loved it. I was in that case, but they enjoyed it. And here, my group from Michigan will take it now and then. The ones here don't. They will interact with you, but they don't take a lot of stuff. They'll bring gifts, and they'll leave gifts on the porch. And, you know, they'll say if they want, like, they'll come up and they'll want ginger, or they'll want turmeric or whatever. Or if they need something, they'll say, hey, this is what I want. And, you know, we've given gifts like that for them when they want it, but they don't take food all the time. Like, I'll put it out there for them, you know, so they have it available if they want it. And they'll take what they want, and then they're done. They aren't real good on taking, but they're pretty good about leaving things.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. I think that we have a lot to learn about all of this. You know, it's certainly. I think it's a topic that a lot of people are just starting to embrace, because at first it was just acknowledging there was something out there, and it took a long time, but a lot of people climbed on board that, there's definitely something out there. We don't really understand it. We don't know what it is. Well, then a lot of people started going out and looking for them and finding out things about them, and we started hearing about this other side of them that seems so far out of touch from our Western sensibilities.
Yeah, well, that's what's so great about your show.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it is, because
thank you.
You will at least entertain the idea of the paranormal parts of them.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And most people, like, even if you go like on Facebook with all these groups and stuff, and trust me, I get put in all kinds of groups, which, that's fine. I like the people.
Mm-hmm.
But you have two sectors. You have they're only flesh and blood and they're an animal.
Right.
And they're people and they have abilities. And it's like you can't get past the side of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that believe it's strictly flesh and blood, I respect that. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I go by what I've witnessed, what I've lived.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But at some point, whether it's now, whether it's in 5 years or 10 years from now, all those flesh and blood people will eventually wander over. And they will do that because there won't be any option. Once you get studying these guys enough and once you are out there enough with them, if you have good contact, and I see a lot of people that, it's contact, I have contact. Yeah, you do, but you have bad contact.
Yeah.
You don't have good contact, which means you're not going to learn any more than what you know right now, so give it up. But if you have that positive contact, you do progress with it, and you are going to see these things happen. And a lot of people have seen these things happen, and simply, their body and their brain just is not going to let them accept it.
Yeah.
And for that, I just say that's fine because you're not ready.
Right.
Sure. And maybe
everybody will have their time when they're ready.
Right. And I think with that more and more people are getting there, but it's again, it's anytime you're going to shift the paradigm of people are going to defend their paradigm tenaciously because that's the happy place that they know. That's the place that's comfortable.
And that's where they feel safe.
Yeah.
But it's like you can look out in anybody's yard, okay? And I'll use my yard as an example. I can look out in my backyard and just see nothing but trees out there.
Sure.
Let me pull out my camera, and there are ways to take their picture. The majority of people don't realize that, but there are ways, and they will pop up in my pictures if they're out there every single time. The key is because of the energy, and I call it energy, it's not the technical term for it, but the energy that they radiate from their body is so different than what we can comprehend, okay? And when you take a camera lens, I don't care what camera you're using, they aren't as adapt or easy to manipulate a camera that are the older style ones. The ones now, the digital ones, they can do it easier. If you focus a camera lens on them, you're going to get every blurry picture, if it even shows up. I know people that have taken a digital camera, had one standing right, 60, 70 feet from, go to take a picture, and it comes out there's nothing there. Because they can manipulate it. They can manipulate the camera lens because of the energy. And it's like a type of infrasound they have as well. And they can manipulate it, and it will either be blurry or not there at all. However, if you take your camera, and everybody says, how do you get pictures? How do you get pictures? Well, they don't pose for me, trust me. Okay? I go out on my deck, and I stand there, and I take pictures in a circle. I go click, 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 just like you're taking, not even focused on anything, like a scenery picture. These are random pictures.
Okay.
Blow them up. If they're there, they're going to show up because they're not focused on them. That's the key to it. If you, per se, see one and you want to get a picture of it, don't put it in the center of your frame and focus on it. Use it like it's a piece of the scenery. Take a picture of the tree, maybe 10, 15 feet from it, so it's off to the side. It will come out clear. Because if it's not focused on them, they can't distort it.
Huh.
Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting.
So we had a question, and this comes up a lot, and maybe you can give us an answer, or your answer for it. Why don't we ever find remains? Do they have a funeral rite that they observe, and do they do something with the body that we don't find it?
They bury their dead. They are excessively protective of their dead. Most clans will do an actual funeral type service for them. They don't put them in. They do go in a grave. They do not lay them out like we do in the grave, but they do put them in a grave. They bury them up. I know certain clans that will take trees and put them over the grave. I know some that will have boulders. I have some that will do absolutely nothing, and it doesn't look like anything's been changed. But they do bury them, and they do have a funeral service. They also go through 4 days worth of silence afterwards, for out of respect for the dead. They do a 4-day silence, and we've gotten now where we can pretty much tell when someone's died. When they get quiet and we don't hear anybody talking for a few days, then it's usually, okay, did someone die, and this type of thing, and one of them will pop up and almost in a whisper and say, yes, we must be quiet. And it's like, okay, we won't bother you for a few days.
Right.
But yeah, and then like if an elder or someone on the council or whatever passes away, it can even be a longer period of time.
Someone on the council?
Mm-hmm. You have your elders, and then you have a council that even the elders will answer to.
So
just like
they have,
and I don't want to say government, because it's not like, when we think of government, we think of our government.
right.
It's their form of what I would consider a government. They have, everybody has a place in the clan. Then they have elders, and then they have council, which the elders will go and answer. Above the elders is the council, and then they have a level that's above that. You just continue up the chain.
That's really wild. Huh. There's so much to know. There's so much to learn. And there's so many possibilities.
Well, like I said, I'm not an expert. I can tell you what I've learned. I can tell you what they've taught me, and what I've picked up along the way. It's just been a lifetime of it.
That makes you...
But, again, I learn every day, too.
Yeah.
Everybody learns. It's a learning curve that never stops.
Right. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's, nobody's got all the answers for any of this stuff. But once you start adding variables, it's even harder,
Yeah. Well, I work with a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, and I'm privileged to do so. I'll get people that'll be referred to me from various individuals and say, hey, will you help me with this or help me with that? It's an honor to. If I have learned anything at all and I can help anybody, I'm all for it.
Right.
I don't try to shove it down anybody's throat. If I'm asked, I will tell you whatever I know. If I don't know, I have no problem saying I have not a clue. Because I don't know it all. But I always tell everybody, if you find somebody that tells you they're an expert, turn around and run like the wind. Because they are so full of themselves, because there's no way to be an expert in this field, because it changes all the time. And, you learn something new every day, and we do constantly. I mean, they'll have me do different things for them. They had, last summer I was asked to go to the Cumberland Mountains and do some work for them in the Cumberland Mountains. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I hike myself, or not hike, but I drive to Cumberland Mountains. I do what they ask me to do, and I come home. But that was a learning curve for me, too, because it's not the first job they've sent me on. They've sent me all over the place, and that's fine. I enjoy it. I will always do it for them. But I do two things. Is it good for our people as well as their people? If I can prove to myself and justify that it's good for both parties, I will help. If it's something that's going to hurt either party, I'm out. I won't do it.
That's cool.
And, even then, we had a lot to learn on that, too. I mean, I find abilities that I didn't know I have, and they're like, oh, no, you know how to do it. Trust us. And I'm like, no, I really don't. No, yeah, you really do. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is cool. New toy,
Yeah, exactly. That's really fascinating. And I can tell that, we're going to have to get you back on, because there's so much to go through, and we only discussed one small aspect.
Gosh, we only talked about Bigfoot.
Yeah, we only discussed one small aspect of your wheelhouse. So you're going to have to come back and share some more with us if you're interested.
Sure, you guys are great.
Oh, good. We're good listeners.
That's what we do.
Well, you know what? I really enjoyed it. I came on and got to do the chat last week, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's
I had
fantastic.
some really nice people on it.
Yeah.
I was really surprised, because I went on it. In fact, Duke had said, you should go on it and check it out. And I was like, okay, great, so I can be attacked. I'm not sure I want to do this. He's like, oh, no. I keep an eye on it. You're fine. I'm like, okay.
Well,
and everybody was really nice and welcoming. I really enjoyed it.
Well, it's not, you're certainly not the wackiest person we've had on, if you're thinking that. I mean, we have...
You haven't heard everything yet. There are days I shake my head and look at my husband and say, really, is this the day I'm going to get locked up? I mean, really.
But,
I mean
yeah.
I was standing here one day.
Yeah.
I mean, Pat's at work. I'm here by myself. Nobody's in the house but me.
Sure.
Went in, cleaned the whole bedroom from top to bottom, and fluffed up all the pillows. He had a pillow that had a black backing on it. I'm out cooking dinner, and he comes home, and he walks in the bedroom, and he comes back out, and he says, hey, what's the big handprint doing on the pillow next to the bed? And I'm like, what are you talking about? What handprint? I just cleaned it. There's no handprint. There's this gargantuan hand. I have pictures of it. I'll just send it to you guys. This gargantuan handprint.
Jeez. That'd be awesome.
On the pillow next to the bed. I'm like, I just cleaned the bloody pillow. What the heck? I mean, they get into stuff around here all the time. I lived in my house not even 24 hours, and I woke up, I went out in the kitchen and muddy handprints all over my
Oh,
refrigerator.
you must have been so thrilled.
And I'm like, I was just thrilled. And it's like I keep all my animal feed in my pantry. I have mini pigs and all kinds of stuff. And I do it because if I keep it outside, then the mice get in it, which means the snakes get in it.
Right.
Mm.
And they have no problem taking. I mean, I'll go buy a 50-pound bag of mini pig pellets. I'll go to feed them the next morning. I'll have like a third of it left.
It's
I'm like,
it's a snack.
They do. They get all kinds of stuff out of here. They have a ball. Made cookies. This is about 5 or 6 years ago. I made this big, huge plate of cookies for my kids. My kids were still living at home at the time. They're grown now. And they were watching a movie in their bedroom. So I go back there and I take them cookies, and I left the plate with over 2 dozen cookies on the counter. I come back from taking them to the kids in the bedroom. The plate's gone, the cookies are gone, and everything. And I'm like, what in the hell? I go to the kids, and I'm like, all right, who is the clown that snuck back out and grabbed the cookies? And they're like, Mom, we're watching a movie. What are you talking about? And I'm like, no, I'm serious. I said, well, you brought us cookies. We were here. We never left the room. I still haven't got the bloody plate left or plate back. I never will. Every time I ask, all I hear is laughter.
So, Robin, with the little bit of time that we have left, I'd like for you to share with people that are listening how they can keep in touch with what you're doing.
Oh, well, I'm on Facebook, Robin Haynes McCrae. You're welcome to private message me anytime you want. I'm also going to be on the 29th of February. I will be at Aiken Tech with a conference there, and I also have got a schedule coming up. It's not out yet, but I will make sure that you guys have it and Duke has it, and you can put it out that way. Different conferences. I will be in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and apparently in April I will be in Kentucky.
Oh,
and the whole basis of it, I'm working on this hominology project with Igor Borstov and Janice Carter, and we are just getting people to understand that these are people, and we're just giving them information on how to live copacetically around them and deal with the paranormal abilities. We just want everybody to get along.
Right.
That's the whole thing. The only way to protect these guys is not going to be any of these bills that need to be signed. The only way to protect them is for people to get educated.
Yeah.
Wow.
It protects us. It protects them.
That's great ideas.
Yeah.
And great thoughts. And I really got to tell you, it's been a pleasure meeting you and a pleasure to hear.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah,
I've enjoyed myself. You guys are awesome.
Well, wonderful. But ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Robin McCrae is out there, and she this was kind of an arranged thing between Duke and her and I, and I'm really we didn't really know if it was going to happen tonight, but it was just magical. It's really cool. I appreciate your insights, your knowledge, your thoughts, and I'm so thrilled
thank you.
You took
guys
the time.
are very kind.
Well, and again, we'll have you back, so we'll be in touch. And
Wow.
I hope you all out there are doing wonderful.
Just get hold of Duke. I talk to him all the time. He'll let me know when.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Robin.
Oh, you guys take care, and thank you so much.
Okay, have a great night. And ladies and gentlemen,
Wow.
that's the portal right there. It was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, thanks, Duke. That's for sure. It was a good discussion. Really interesting stuff, and I'm really thrilled that she called in tonight to be a part of the show. Don, anything else?
No. Just remember to like, love, and just keep coming back. We
and
work.
Subscribe.
We work, yeah.
Like, love, and subscribe. Subscribing is like showing your love in a very visual way.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
if you're not already subscribed to the portal, please get subscribed and keep. Yeah,
we have 3 thumbs down.
3 of them. Woo!
Woo! You do realize that just means that it's analytics and nobody really gives a crap, right?
Nobody cares if you're thumbing it down. But
I'll give you something to thumb, buddy.
Ooh, hey. No,
Anyhow,
I don't even know what to do with that.
So, you know better than even I know you're just gonna say I'm just gonna leave that steaming pile sitting
I'm gonna
right
leave
there.
that steaming pile sitting right
There
there.
you go.
Are you happy now? I ain't touching that one, ladies and gentlemen. Don wants to give you guys something to thumb. That's all between you and him. But
I don't know if my pit bull will like it.
yeah. But anyway, guys, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can.
Absolutely.
I'll be back tomorrow night with the Night Terrors, and on Friday night, I'll be joined by author Al Tyus here on the portal, on the live portal, and then Don will be back with me, and we might have someone joining us on Saturday.
That would be so cool because I finally found the thread you're talking about.
And we'll, he's got to get permission to be here, of course. But pending that, someone will be here with us. But we'll let you know.
Oh, anyway, you're talking about that other thing. Okay.
That other thing. Yeah. But anyway, guys, check out the
podcast.
The podcast. Absolutely. Pandora, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, and many others. If you like the podcast and you like the portal and you want to help us out, head over to iTunes and leave us a good evaluation. We appreciate it. 3 thumbs away from perfection. Oh, thank you.
Hey. Someone took one back. How kind.
Oh, that's
How
sweet.
Kind.
Love. But
big hearts for you.
well, anyway, I guess that's about all I got, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely exhausted. I've been running all day
It's been
long.
a long day, yeah.
Doing interviews and talking to people and messaging and stuff. I am steamed out. So anyway, guys, love you guys. Have a great night. Sweet dreams. And I'll see you tomorrow night. And then Al Tyus will be joining me on Friday. So
excellent.
Until then, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night.
I bid you adieu.